Hey guys, Recruiter Preston here. In this video, we have a chance to sit down with one of the co-founders of Hey Milo, an up-and-coming AI startup that is looking to disrupt how we recruiters qualify and spend so much time talking to candidates every single day. What if there's a way to truly leverage technology, truly leverage AI to get those hours back and still make better hiring decisions and work smart? Excited to share with you more about his story, a screen share of the product to give you a better understanding of what can actually do for you and your desk. Hope you enjoy. Welcome back to another video. In this video, we are excited to sit down and have a chat with Sebastian, one of the founders of Milo, an up-and-coming AI startup that is looking to disrupt and revolutionize us recruiters and our experience when it comes to candidates, doing qualification calls, and all that fun stuff. So really excited to dig in and also share with you guys a screen share demo with the founder himself. But without further ado, Sebastian, thank you so much for being on the video.
For having me.
Absolutely our pleasure. So I guess to get started, would love to just ask you, can you share a little bit more about your background and then what inspired you to create Milo and what are some of the main kind of releases and products and features that you shipped out?
Totally, yeah. So we actually started Hey Milo to kind of solve a pain point that me and my co-founder had. We both spent a lot of our time each week interviewing candidates for roles on our team. And we often found that the candidates that were coming in from recruiter screens were not the best fit for the role. And so as we started looking deeper into this, we realized that we can solve this with voice AI and really build an AI recruiter that can essentially do a two-way conversational interview and vet candidates at the top of the funnel and essentially save our time as hiring managers vetting poor quality candidates that were coming in. This also kind of helps solve stuff for recruiters who might not be as technical or might not know some of the nuances about the skills required for the role. And also, we realized oftentimes the best way to really identify a candidate's fit was through a conversation, beyond even just giving them, let's say, a coding assessment or some kind of other skill assessment. So that was really the core nucleus of the problem we were trying to solve. It's since kind of evolved to us going after recruiting agencies and focusing on high volume hiring, going beyond just technical roles, which was our initial focus, to a variety of roles from call centers to sales reps to you kind of name it, blue collar workers, etc. But in terms of features that we've been rolling out, we started with just a voice agent that would kind of talk to candidates. We've since evolved to adding video. We've added all sorts of layers of how, recruiters can go in and analyze candidates based on their conversation with the voice AI, built integrations into all sorts of additional platforms. And yeah, we've grown a ton since we started a little over a year ago. Our usage is continuing to grow each month, doing thousands of interviews on the platform right now and onboarding some really large agencies as well. And I think the biggest value prop for recruiting agencies is that they're able to use Hey Milo to scale their initial screens. So they're really able to focus on the top candidates and really reduce time to hire. And so that leads to more placements in less time. And then the way we're priced, it's a fraction of, you bringing on another recruiter onto your team, right? And so that's kind of our value prop for recruiting agencies.
For sure. So AI is being used a lot in technology, in tech in general, but specifically in HR recruitment tech. What sort of AI are you guys really using AI? Is it something for people who are unfamiliar with it? Is it something similar to ChatGPT and modeling? If you can maybe share and elaborate a little bit more about the technology behind your product, that'd be fantastic.
Totally. So the core technology that's powering Hey Milo is a large language model, which we fine-tuned with a ton of training data to essentially allow for our voice agents to be able to go really deep into a candidate's experience based on their responses to a set of questions. So what our voice AI is really able to do is really dive deep into what a candidate says and really discern if they actually know what they're talking about or they're just, faking it essentially, right? And so the core technology is, real AI, right? It's built on top of large language models. We've done a ton of stuff to build out an interruption layer, right? So that the experience for a candidate is really seamless, right? They'll know that they're talking to an AI, but they feel like they're being vetted a lot more thoroughly compared to if, let's say, a company gave them a one-way video interview, right? And we're really trying to disrupt that entire market. Candidates hate that one-way video interview kind of experience. Companies don't really extract a lot of insights from them. And so we're trying to provide value and improve that experience for both sides because it's tough for companies to really scale their interview process, especially when they get, let's say, hundreds, if not thousands of applicants, right? And so there's a need for these technologies.
You said voice AI, and eventually it should be evolved into working as an AI recruiter or recruiter AI, right? So a lot of people are concerned that AI is going to replace their jobs. So what is your view on that? Because you kind of structure the pricing to be oh, if you want to hire, you don't have to hire. You can just use us. And so are you eventually positioning your tool to kind of replace a recruiter, or is it essentially going to help current recruiters do their job better?
It's definitely more of the latter, right? There's still a need for our recruiters to go through our platform, review the analyses that we're doing on these candidates as they're interviewing, right? Really determine who they want to move forward with. We explicitly don't do anything with like pushing certain candidates through to like the next part of the funnel and like recommending certain candidates based on their interview. We basically present the data based on the analyses that we're able to do, right? And we give that to our recruiter to ultimately make that human judgment, right? But I do think that recruiters, like AI is here, it's not going away, right? I think the folks who are afraid of it, are in some ways going to be left behind, and the agencies who adopt are going to move a lot more efficiently. They're going to be increasing their revenue. They're going to be cutting their costs. They're just going to be a lot more, I'd say they're just going to be a lot more lean and effective, right? But it's not going to replace the recruiter in any way.
And can you elaborate a little bit more about the pricing structure and how that could look in case people are kind of interested to try you guys out?
Absolutely. So basically what we do is we'll look at how much a recruiter is costing your business right now. We'll break down the number of interviews they're able to do, let's say per month, and we'll calculate price per interview that you're currently paying for these interviews, right? And then from there, we'll do a fraction of that based on, various factors like the location you're in, right? Like let's say US versus Colombia versus the Philippines, etc. And a basically price based on like that per interview basis. And then what you would do is you would be subscribing for a certain number of interviews at that price point, essentially. And you price purely based on usage in terms of interviews completed on the platform. You don't do anything based on like a seat model. So you can invite 1,000 people to the platform. That's not going to cost you extra. You don't do anything in terms of, let's say you 3x your placements, right, per month. You don't take a cut of that. We don't believe that's, what we should be doing. The value we're providing is helping you complete interviews. And so we price just purely on that.
Perfect. I love that, especially with recruiters and agencies that are very price sensitive. It's not like an upfront cost. It's like, hey, if you guys love us and you use us a lot in interviews, and we also do well. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. And we tend to like give folks like, let's say a couple of weeks, like free trial, right? At the minimum, right? Come on, really enjoy the platform, really gain trust in it, right? Because trusting a voice AI to go and do your interviews, like it seems a little far-fetched for a lot of folks still, right? You want people to really feel comfortable with the tool, right? Really fall in love with it, then commit to using it. And again, the waiver price is based on, the number of interviews you actually do per month, right? There's nothing you're paying in terms of like a upfront setup fee or anything like that based on the number of people in your organization. You just think that pricing and business model doesn't make sense for our customers, or honestly, frankly, for us too.
Before we go into like the screen share, just want to give the audience more of a better contextual understanding of you and the company. So would you mind just sharing like where are you guys located? Are you fully distributed? Are you just based in the West Coast or East Coast? Like where are you from? So people know kind of your story a little bit.
Oh yeah. Born and raised in Toronto. I moved to the States basically when I graduated university. Started my career as an engineer, then transitioned into product management. Done literally hundreds of interviews at various tech companies like Microsoft, Meta, you name it. And my co-founder, similar story, tech lead most recently at Salesforce, done a ton of interviews for his team. And yeah, so we've seen this, pain point, right, ourselves. We're currently based in the New York City area. Our team is fairly distributed. We have folks kind of on the West Coast, some on the East Coast, some internationally as well. But yeah, we're pretty accessible through LinkedIn or through email. And if you're in the New York City area, we'd love to meet in person, grab coffee, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Last question. Are you guys like bootstrapped? Are you VC backed? Like any cool investors behind you guys?
Oh yeah. So we raised capital for Hey Milo. We realized that, this is going to be a competitive space, right? The ROI for agencies, companies is so obvious here, right? And you need a raise to kind of accelerate growth here. So we decided to go the VC path for this company. And yeah, I don't know if I answered the second part of your question there.
Are you able to share like any of the VCs names? Or is that still kind of?
Yeah, no. So some of the people that backed us are Canaan Partners, Entrepreneurs Roundtable, Accelerator, and then Alumni Ventures as well.
Awesome. All fantastic organizations. So let's get into it. Would you mind sharing us maybe a little screen share of what Milo actually does? We'd love to see it.
Let's do it. Cool. So Preston, do you have a open role on you right now? Because I can actually use that to create one of these AI voice agents to do an interview.
What information do you need?
It's basic job rec work. If not, I can pull one from LinkedIn, but it'd be cool to do like a live one.
So do you need the actual URL for the job rec?
Yeah, a URL works. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. And can it do technical roles, non-technical roles, anything?
Really any role you can think of. Anything that like ideally gets a lot of applicants. When I eventually create the agent and start interviewing, hopefully I'm able to follow up on my engineering skills to actually interview effectively.
Aha. So I guess this will be a test on multiple levels here.
This right here is our dashboard page, but then Hey Milo. Essentially, you're going to be able to see the previous agents or AI recruiters that you've created for previous roles. I'm going to go for create a new agent. And what you see here are a set of options to kind of set up your agent. So you can choose to do either a voice interview or a video interview. You can name your agent, input the job title for the agent, add a job description for the agent. You can even add some custom instructions to the agent in regards to how it asks follow-up questions or how long it should pause between when a candidate responds and between when the AI would ask its next question. And then finally, you can choose the style of the interview, whether a candidate needs to upload their resume, and then put a deadline on the agent. And that basically ensures that people after that deadline can go in and access the interview. So I'm going to take this job rec that you sent me, senior software engineer. I'm going to give the agent name the same as the job title. And then I'm going to copy all this info and paste it into the job description. And this basically gives the agent or the recruiter info about the role and how it should ask questions and what set baseline questions should be asked no matter what to evaluate the candidate. I'm going to go ahead and leave agent instructions blank. I'm going to choose general for the style of the interview. I'm going to set require resume to no, and I'm just going to, for fun, change the date, the deadline to a future date 3 weeks out or so. So I'm going to click continue. And basically what's happening right now is we're going through the job description, the job title, agent instructions to come up with the baseline set of questions that the interviewer or the AI recruiter is going to ask the candidate no matter what. And then for each of those questions, there's an evaluation rubric, which essentially scores the candidate based on their response. So you'll see what a score of 5 out of 5 looks like. That's a perfect score for that question. And then you'll be able to see what a score of 1 out of 5 looks like. And then you can see each of the baseline questions here. And I'll go through these in a bit.
So quick question, Sebastian. So what is the criteria of score 5 and score 1? What is that based off of?
It's basically based off of like the question, and our AI goes in and identifies like basically a scaling factor in terms of what a really bad answer might look like versus what a really great answer will look like. And the reason why we have an evaluation rubric for every single question is that that enables an objective evaluation of every single candidate when they're interviewing with Hey Milo. So you're giving every single person a fair shot. And so when people use this at scale, they're typically doing it so that when a candidate applies, they'll either get an email or a text message with this interview link. And by ensuring that there's an objective evaluation for every question that's going to be asked, every candidate is essentially an apples to apples comparison to one another. And you're really finding who are the top candidates in that applicant pool. So right here, first question based on the job description was, can you describe a project where you were responsible for both front end and back end development? And then you can see what a score of 5 looks like. So candidate clearly describes a complex project detailing specific front end and back end challenges faced, technologies used, and their direct contributions. Score of 1, candidate struggles to recall a project or explains a project where they contributed minimally to either the front or back end. And so the great thing about like using a large language model to ultimately evaluate is that you can provide these, scores for 1 and 5, and it'll be able to determine like, an answer that's in between this range. You can even go in here and like provide more thorough, examples of what a score of 5 would look like if you want to be a little bit more crisp, right? This was generated by our AI, but you can make it definitely more customized to your need and your. Gotcha. So this is all ultimately, the way these questions are designed, it's still up to, let's say the recruiter, right? Or the hiring manager, whoever, to go in and really make sure it's testing candidates based on what they want.
Gotcha. Okay. So the flow right now is obviously determine you have an open job to hire for, and then you open up Hey Milo, you put that information in, you spend maybe a few more minutes here just fine tuning everything. And then what happens now?
So once you're okay with all the questions, usually companies will want to edit this, a little bit, maybe add a few more questions, right? Maybe delete that were auto-generated by our AI, but eventually you're going to be like, okay, this looks good. And you're going to click continue to choose share options at the bottom there. And you're going to be presented with this link here, which you can share with candidates. Typically what companies do and agencies do is when a candidate applies for a role, they'll automatically get this link in an email or a text, which when they open, I'm just going to paste that into my browser, they're brought to this page to actually conduct their interview with Hey Milo. This would have your custom branding, obviously. This would be like replaced with your logo, and then this would be the flow of the candidate. So go in, provide my info or some info about the interview that's about to occur. Start the session. I just realized I only did an audio interview for this one. I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to show you how easy it is to just clone and like create a new agent from scratch based on a previous one.
So while you're working on this, just to kind of clarify for the audience, what is really interesting about Hey Milo is us recruiters spend an inordinate amount of time every single day talking to candidates. And so this is something that we can do that can talk to the candidates essentially for us, right? Potentially saving us hours and hours of time each day, which would be huge.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like the biggest like kind of value prop there along with that is the fact that by being able to scale those like first round interviews, you can actually make a ton more placements, right? So we've seen recruiting agencies use our platform and 3x the number of placements that they're able to do. Or like let's say you're running a call center, be able to hire 20 people in a couple of days, right? Instead of a couple of weeks, right? Those are some of the things that like Hey Milo allows you to accomplish.
Oh, gotcha. So you can really build that top of the funnel and Hey Milo can just rank them immediately on like who are the top candidates are.
Exactly.
Right?
So for example, you put out a job posting, today, you get, let's say 500 applicants, right? By tomorrow, let's say they're all screened with Hey Milo, right? In reality, you'll probably get 85 to 90%, right? You'll be able to find out who are the top 5 to get on a call with, and then you'll be able to figure out who are the, let's say, top 3 to move forward to, the client who you want to pass on. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead, start the interview. You'll see now it's an actual video interview. It's asked me to turn on my camera, click continue. There I am, start the interview. Let me know if you can hear the audio, Preston. Just want to make sure the Zoom settings are good.
Hi, Sabashan. My name is Sarah. I'm an AI voice agent that conducts voice screens for Wayne Enterprises. I'm here to help you perform your best. Should we get started?
Yep, let's get started.
Great. Can you describe a project where you were responsible for both front-end and back-end development?
Yeah, absolutely. A time that comes to mind was when I was at Microsoft and I was building a new out-of-box update experience so that when computers were booted up and they were on an older version, they'd be able to upgrade to the latest version just while setting up their computer silently in the background. And so I owned actually building out the entire front-end experience, which essentially had to mimic the look and feel of their existing out-of-box experience, even though it was a web application that would be downloaded once they connected to their internet. And then I also owned all the backend components in regards to how you would pull this information in terms of the right binaries to, basically boot your computer into. I did all the logic in regards to being able to do that effectively and managed all the appropriate backend requests.
Can you share some specific challenges you faced with both the front end and back end and how you addressed them during this project?
I think some of the biggest challenges with the front end was getting the look and feel exactly the same as the out-of-box experience, which was built kind of natively into the operating system. And so that required me going into system code, figuring out, what they were doing on that side of stuff to, render the UI the way it was rendered, and then basically mimic that into a web application, right? So that was really challenging because two very different sets of technologies. And then some of the challenges on the back end were, handling different cases in regards to what happens when you don't have internet, what happens when you lose internet, and different binaries had to be downloaded during the update process, right? There was a ton of logic that had to occur there to ensure that we weren't breaking people's computers as soon as they, open them up, right? Which would be a horrible thing and it would lead to a ton of returns, right? Yeah, but the end impact was great. Like we were able to, I think during the duration of that project, update over 30 million out-of-date Windows PCs.
Thank you for sharing that detailed experience. Next, tell me about a time when you directly collaborated with non-engineering teams like product managers or designers on a project.
Yeah, absolutely. So during my time at Microsoft Teams, I worked really cross-functionally across a number of different teams like product design, sales even. And what was really important was ensuring that as we're building new features, the different cross-functional stakeholders were aware of what one another were doing and we're all aligned in regards to the business goals and we're marching in the right direction in regards to how we were executing. Having constant communication in terms of, daily sync-ups, weekly meetings to track progress to our goals was really key to just make sure the different stakeholders were aligned. And then I also served a strategic role in regards to translating stuff from more technical from the junior engineers to more business lingo for the product manager, sales folks, design folks, etc.
Can you share a specific instance where your collaboration led to enhanced project results or innovation?
Yeah, absolutely. An example was when we were building unique experiences for our IT admin onboarding flow for different verticals. It was really key to understand what sales was selling ultimately to our customers and verticals like education, healthcare, and so on, and basically translate that to the product team to ensure that they're working with design to come up with the right experience for these different verticals. And then the engineers understood to build stuff in a scalable way to support these different verticals. And so that's an example where, working cross-functionally, we were able to meet our project deadlines and then also really deliver an impactful end user experience that was scalable and allowed us to kind of iterate on top based on, kind of things that we were definitely going to see once we launched to market. And so that led to a really a product that was able to be everlasting in its ability to kind of like continue to be maintained and easily iterated on.
Sounds like a successful collaboration. What approaches do you use to ensure your code and applications are scalable and performant?
I don't really care too much about application performance or any of that kind of stuff, to be honest. I just care about getting the project done and getting it out to customers because I just care about that.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Can you share an experience where you had to manage a zero downtime migration or implement a critical system component?
Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for from my response before I go ahead and answer that?
I'm looking to hear about a specific experience where you handled a high stakes operation like a zero downtime migration or a critical system implementation, including the process you followed, challenges you faced, and strategies you used to ensure success.
Yeah, there was once a database migration that I had to do, which was really challenging, which I think fits that criteria.
Can you go into detail about the challenges you faced during this database migration and how you overcame them?
Some of the challenges were, it was being used by real traffic. And so when having to do this migration, I had to make sure that traffic wasn't, down, right? I had to make sure availability was still 100%. So I had to ensure that there was appropriate swapping between the new system and the old system.
How did you specifically handle the data consistency and minimize user impact during this migration?
Let's just move on to the next question.
Sure, let's move on. Why do you think you are a good fit for our team at Torch Dental?
I really love the healthcare industry, and helping people.
Thank you for sharing that. That's all the questions I have for you today. Thank you for your time and interest in Torch Dental. We will be in touch soon with the next steps. Do you have any questions for me that I can pass on to the hiring team?
How did I do on the interview?
I don't have the ability to provide feedback on your performance, but I'll pass on your responses to the hiring team and they will be in touch with you soon. Thank you again and best of luck.
Thank you. So you can see I was kind of giving a variety of answers. The first couple I was actually trying to give like a solid answer, but it still asked me some follow-ups where there was ambiguity, right? And there's some where I gave a really poor answer on purpose and there was no follow-ups because the agent or AI recruiter knew that, I scored really low. So we'll see that when we look at the analysis at the end. And then there's somewhere I gave kind of like, questions back to the AI to get some more info, maybe trip it up, right? And it was able to kind of get through that. And then I think it was the second last question, it was actually able to break me down and, go into the fact that I actually didn't know what I was talking about. I just made something up about like database, migrations and whatnot. And I had to ask it to move forward. So at the end of the interview, candidates can actually rate the interview and we actually provide, we will give you a report on what the candidate experience is like. But on average, and we're doing thousands of interviews right now, our average candidate sees that as a 4.6 out of 5.
Nice. What about people with strong accents? Or what about people who want to redo a question? Like, can you do that?
Right now, we don't allow for candidates to redo a question, right? It's a good way. Right now, we feel like you'd be able to cheat, basically, right? We want it to be like a one-shot go type of thing, right? I know some of the one-way video interview platforms allow that, but I think, again, it's one of the, to me, right, from what we see, it's one of the reasons why they're not super effective, right? So we want this to be kind of like a real, like, interview with a recruiter, right? Or hiring manager.
Very cool.
To answer your question about like accents, sorry. Well, yeah, we're using probably the best transcriber in the world to ensure that like different accents are heard and we're not penalizing candidates, so to speak, based on their accent. And then the way we evaluate people is based off of the transcription, right? On what they say, right? We don't do anything based on, anything voice detection, like in terms of like frequency of speech or anything like that. It's purely on the content. And so that again allows us to be more objective in our evaluation.
Okay, awesome. So what does the recruiter see after an interview?
Yeah, definitely. Let me go back to the dashboard page if you guys remember this. So once candidates complete the interview, they'll be able to click on view candidates and see all the candidates that complete the interview. This is just my test workspace. So that's why there's not a ton of candidates to complete these interviews. So this is what they would see on their end. So they'll be able to get an overall candidate summary, which shows like their highlight and low light, which gives them like a nice kind of high level snapshot. They'll be able to see a scorecard where for each of those baseline questions, there's basically a score. You'll see here, first two questions, I tried my best and I answered them fairly well. So I got an 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Basically, we take that score from 1 to 5 and multiply it by 2 to just normalize the score here. The third question, which I bombed on purpose, got a 2 out of 10. So that would have been a 1 out of 5. The fourth question, I answered some stuff properly, but it was able to break me down and score me appropriately, like a 4 out of 10. I think that's roughly correct. And then here, I did not answer that well at all. I didn't see what scoring was when we were creating the agent, but I didn't go into much detail about Torch Dental. To be honest, I don't know what they do, unfortunately. And so I scored pretty poorly there as well. And so based on all of those individual questions and the scoring, we derive an overall score, which is what you see up here. GAMECHANGER. Some other stuff here is like the transcription, takes a couple of minutes to load. Yep, so all of that is here, so you can read through it if you want, or you can just listen to the audio recording. You can watch the video recording as well. And then yeah, we do a communication skill analysis that's again purely done based on the transcription. We don't do anything on like voice frequency or anything like that, just because of like the bias that can arise from that. And then yeah, different recruiters can leave notes, they can leave their thoughts on, how the candidate did. This is great for, larger recruiting agencies, companies, that kind of thing. And then yeah, and then if you want, let's say the candidate did well, obviously I didn't do great, you can share these candidates with your clients as well. And they can leave notes as well. I'm just gonna type that in. And so a lot of our recruiting agencies will actually share these over to their company and they'll listen to it. And I think they understand that like, hey, like they actually like that the agency is working with a company like us, like Hey Milo, doing stuff with AI, because they know that they're, using the latest and greatest in tech right now.
That's awesome. And how else can you export this? How do you share this with your team? Is it the same link or?
Yeah, so that same link can be shared over with your team, or you can just invite them to your workspace. You'd go to set teammates, add them as a teammate. You can export the data as well into the ATS of your choice. These are just a few that we show by default, but we support a ton of other ATSs too. But when you click internal ATS, it'll basically just download a CSV on all the candidates, how they scored for each question, that kind of stuff. So if you want to do stuff a little more old fashioned, you can as well.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Is there anything else you would like to show?
I'm trying to think. I mean, if you do ever forget about what the questions were and the scoring that was used, you can always go here into the agent page itself. It's pretty easy to also just create a new agent based on a previous one, clone it, and edit whatever you need. And yeah, that's really it. I think there's like some more nuanced features here, but I think once people play around, they'll discover them and whatnot.
Two other questions. So when people sign up, do you have like training or instruction manual on how to use the product or platform? And then second is, what about how does support look like with you guys? If so, if people have any questions, how can they get in touch with you or your team?
Yeah, so there's a whole like onboarding like wiki page that you can use, tells you basically how to create an agent for your job postings, right? How to share with candidates effectively, how to review the data at the end, all of that kind of stuff. And then we also have a number of customer success managers on our team who will work closely with you, especially when you're onboarding. They'll actually make sure your first few agents are exactly the way you want. And then we have 24/7. We have a pretty international team at this point. So we'll be able to handle any kind of questions that kind of arise throughout the day. So if you are a larger recruiting agency, you can rest assured that we got your back. And we have onboarded a number of really large recruiting agencies, and you can stay tuned to our LinkedIn page on, once we did the case studies and announce some of those larger partnerships.
Awesome. Awesome. Is there anything that you can share to the audience as a teaser on some of the new features or kind of the things that you and your team are kind of going to plan on rolling out soon in the near future?
These are our new features. There's a ton of exciting stuff, and then there's a ton of stuff that are boring but are really useful for our companies, right? Some of the more boring stuff, honestly, I think people might get more excited for, just like the deeper integration with your ATS, your workflows, right? Like just making it super easy to create these agents, like not even having to go into our platform, right? Literally write a few prompts and you'll be able to create an agent and send it out to candidates, like literally minutes. So that's some like cool stuff that's coming. There's a lot more that I can't say right now. There's some cool partnerships we got in the works with some larger players in the space that I think are really exciting, but you'll have to stay tuned for that.
Sounds good. And if anyone wants to reach out to you for questions, where can they find you, Sebastian?
You can either email me at sabes@heymilo.ai, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Either works. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I really want to thank you so much for your time. I think this is a fantastic product with a very clear use case. I'm excited to actually roll this out to my own agency. And I'm sure if you're checking this out right now, you're excited to kind of do the same. And as Sebastian said, they do free trials. So again, fantastic opportunity for you to kind of try it out and see if it can actually push the needle on your team or your company. But Sebastian, it's been an absolute pleasure and would love to link up one day. But, very, very inspired and proud of what you guys have built so far and truly excited to see what you guys are going to do moving forward. So really appreciate your time. And anyone want to reach out to you and the team, please feel to do so. If you guys want to check it out, check them out. Fantastic product. Hey, Milo. And we'll keep in touch. We'll go from there.
Definitely. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So guys, what do you think? I think this is an awesome product, potentially a game changer that can help you save all that time talking to candidates. You can qualify more candidates at scale while being more efficient and working smarter and sending as good or even potentially better candidates to your clients. Win, win, win. If you're excited, kind of get on board, definitely click on the link below, try them out. I think this could potentially be a game changer to you and your business, and we'd love to hear your thoughts about it.